Hey there. Hey, can you hear me? Audio is connected. Hey, good evening.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. I'm good. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great, great, great. Good evening. Good evening.
Well, hello there.
Hello, how are you?
Oh my God, I guess I'm doing dual. I'm looking at CNN. I'm seeing things that I never thought in my lifetime I would ever see. It's like Bedlam, and what a day we would have this meeting on this day of
Wow.
what Pastor's seen. I don't know if he knew this was coming down the pipe, but my God, my God.
I'm sure the expectation wasn't exactly what we're witnessing at this point.
This
Hey,
is
good evening.
terrible.
Good evening.
Terrible. If it was us, I don't know. If it was Black Lives Matter, they would already have somebody after us. I want you to know that we never would have gotten the building, let alone be in Pelosi's and sitting in our chair with your feet up. Come on now, boo, what's going on?
Yeah, I don't think so. Can you hear us, Jenise?
Yeah, I was saying no, they wouldn't even made it to the steps. They just shot us dead in the street. They wouldn't have been on them steps concentrated like that.
That's
No.
right.
No, and they would have been there waiting on them.
We never would have made it up the steps. You right. What's long?
Hey, good evening. Good evening. You're on mute there, Tim. It's okay.
I got you. My bad.
All right. Good evening.
How you doing, brother?
I'm good. I'm good. Derick, Tina, how are you guys?
Hey, all right. How are you?
Oh, all right. Good.
Violence in the community.
What a day for rejoicing this will be.
Yeah.
I want to see the history books 10 years from now.
Amen.
We'll see how the story is told.
Yeah.
We'll see how this story is told.
Unbelievable.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Thank you guys for joining. I really appreciate it. Hey, Josh. Are you connecting? You're in and you're on mute. Fantastic. All righty. I see you there, Josh.
Hey, how's everybody doing?
Good, good, good.
All right.
Good.
So as you guys are coming in, what we're going to do is I'm going to give you the floor here in a minute. We're going to go around. I'll say your name, and then you can kind of introduce yourselves and tell us what fraternity or sorority you're from. Okay, that'll be fantastic. And then I'd like to go into your kind of initial comments as it relates to if you think about the climate in our country. I mean, I didn't expect today to be like it is, so not to put you in a particular direction based on the information that you're hearing, but expectation is that we were going to be able to share what we're seeing, and then we're going to move into what we believe that God is saying at this hour. Okay. Welcome, Eric. Can you hear us? You're on mute. Well, you're on mute, buddy.
The picture.
Oh, there it is. How you doing, sir?
Very good, very good. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Love the beard, brother.
Yeah, trying something a little new.
We all been indoors for a while, so beards are becoming the norm.
Most definitely.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
We got too many offers on the phone call.
Got a few others that are going to join us here.
Don't be like that, Tina.
You heard me.
I
Hey, Pastor. How you doing, Jim? Can you hear us okay? You're on mute there. You're on mute.
Oh, I'm sorry. How is that?
Praise God.
I'm blessed. How is everybody?
Excellent,
Good,
excellent.
good.
Glad you could join.
Glad to be
Got
able
two
to
more
join.
people. We won't try to move quickly here. I don't want to keep you long because I know everybody has busy schedules, especially the Welches.
Right.
Oh, you got the double. Yeah, the double Welches. Wow. Yeah. What's up, Josh?
Hey, how you doing, brother?
Blessed, bro.
All right.
Hey, Timothy.
Hey, what's going on, birthday man? How you doing?
I'm blessed.
You good?
Hey, Miss Hailey. How are you?
Hi.
Judith, you're on mute. So before you start speaking, just know we can't hear you.
All right. How's
There we go.
everybody doing?
Praise God.
Good,
Good,
good.
good.
Hey, Miss Warren, how you
hey.
doing?
Good, great, great.
Doing fine.
So we get
Yeah.
one more, we'll do a kind of an official kickoff. I don't want to start from nothing, but you guys already got the email. Basically what I'm going to ask that you would introduce yourself, tell us, what fraternity, sorority you are from. You can even say, hey, I pledged that, undergrad, grad, whatever. And then we want to start the conversation with, it's kind of a tough, going in kind of hard here on climate in the country and understanding that we already are experiencing something pretty significant right now. But kind of from your perspective, what you're seeing, and then we're going to talk about what we think God is saying in this hour. We'll see if we can wrap up here in about 45 minutes, 50 minutes, try to stay within the hour. We want to get around to everybody. So, we'll do kind of the Reader Digest versions somewhat, but I don't want to mute anybody on comments, okay? So we got Tammy joining us here, just a minute. Hey there, Tammy.
Hi.
And
Hi,
you're on.
everyone.
All right. Welcome,
Hey.
welcome.
Thank you.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yes, I think we have everybody at this point. So again, I'll restate. Thanks again, guys. I appreciate you all joining for the evening. What our intent behind the night was to kind of show a unified front, really, as we're all part of different walks of life in our Divine Nine experience. I'm going to ask that you would share your name, what sorority, fraternity you might be from, if you pledged undergrad, grad, and then coming out the block, we're going to ask just to give your comments, and we'll walk into a discussion here on the climate in the country at this point, knowing and understanding what we're experiencing even on today. Pretty significant happening in DC as we speak. So on my screen in the top left corner is Sister Debbie Hailey. And after Debbie, I'm going to ask that my sister, who is Sharon Civils, would go next. And then Jenise. That's the top three, after which I'll come back in and say who's next after that. Debbie, it's on you.
Oh, thank you, Brother Latier. So I'm Debbie Hailey. I have been in my sorority, Sigma Gamma Rho sorority, since 1981. I came in as an undergrad at University of Cincinnati. Actually have been side by side with Pastor Pifus and his wife, Marcia, for quite some time. So we have been together through this journey a long time. And I'm excited about being here. Today, I told Latier, I said, I don't really know what you expect of me, but I can go with the flow. But again, it's exciting to be here with all of you. And, I know that we're in a tough time right now, but it's going to get better. 2021 is going to bring us lots of goodness, lots of blessings, things that we wouldn't have expected. And I'm looking forward to it.
Hi, I'm Sharon Civils. I'm Zeta Phi Beta sorority. Just crossed over yesterday. I'm a graduate student, Michigan State University. I live in Lansing, Michigan. I'm glad to be here. I had to be on my knees last night. Hadn't been doing that, but you know, I had to go through the entire ritual and never did it virtually. So it was a very different experience for me, but I will be with my sisters come the summertime. So we'll see how that goes.
All right. Hold on, I got stuff going off all over the place. Hang on, I'm sorry. Sure. Jenise Lee, I'm a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. I did go over grad chapter in fall of 04, so a little over Sweet 16. I would say, I think we're in a place, while it's a very exciting time for people of color, Black people, Black women, we're also in a very disheartening time as well. So I think we actually have a grand opportunity to have some influence and kind of shift the pendulum a bit. It won't be without hard work or even some grit, so to speak. But while it's kind of discouraging, I'm not discouraged, because I think we have a lot of influence in the community, and I'll say even in the kingdom, just a community at large, whether you're Greek or not Greek, either whether you are a believer or not. I think from a holistic perspective, we will come together and get it done.
We're going to have Tim, and then the Welches, Joshua, and Mr. Martin, in that order.
All right. Thank you, Elder Latier. Appreciate you for the invite. My name is Tim Easterling. I'm a member of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated, Beta Iota Chapter, Cincinnati, Ohio. My initial engagement with the fraternity took place back in 1987, and so I pledged twice. I'm gonna leave it at that. All right. I pledged twice. Actually became an official member in fall of 2011, when I looked on my wall one day and I didn't have a certificate, and I was like, you know what is this all about? So let me go ahead and go through this process again and make it right. Anyhow, that's what we did. Undergrad stuff, great. So anyhow, that's my fraternity process. I'll sum this up with what's going on here. I believe that the land is being destroyed by the hands of man in order for it to be rebuilt by the hands of God. I believe that that's taken place throughout our history, and we unfortunately are not going to be exempt in our lifetime. So we're experiencing that. And as I said, that the hands are going to be restored by the hands of God. That means that people who are in love with God, who has the compassionate heart of God, is going to have a lot to do with the reshaping of the land.
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. I am Tina Welch. I'm a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. I became a member of the organization back in 1982. So I've been a member for over 39 years now. Very active within the community, and pledged undergrad at the University of Dayton, and which is a majority school. So my experience was different than some of you that are on the call that may have went through the process through an HBCU. And so from that perspective, some of the things that are happening within our community now, I am not surprised because of some of my experiences in the undergraduate environment, and understanding that the the love of earthly things makes people do things that are not necessarily godly. And as a believer, I trust in God and let him guide me through whatever's happening, because I know he is in control. And so I'm going to turn it over to my husband.
I'm Derick Welch, Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. Undergraduate experience at University of Cincinnati, 1985, May 20th. So I've been in fraternity for a while too. So what I'm thinking right now is when I think of the fraternity and sorority aspect, I think the outward look of what the community saw when we came together, we always, my fraternity better, we do all that intertwining of which fraternity and sorority is the best. But the outside public don't know that we're really all joined. We all got the same mission, was all founded on the same principles, the gospel principles, everything that we do. And they were actually able to see that when Kamala was running, how all the Divine Nine came together. Brother Warnock down in Atlanta that just came in last night in the Senate, who's an Alpha. So they actually got to see the Divine Nine in action and what that power of the Divine Nine can really do when we move in one accord and all support each other outwardly like we do inwardly. Because, from the outside, they see, oh, they're all divided. But we always know we're always supporting each other. We always try to support each other's events and do all that type of stuff. And we're actually all one. So they actually got to see that. And I'm kind of proud of that, what's going on right now. So if we can continue that and helping the community, serving the community in that way, I think we can go a long way.
Hello, everyone. My name is Joshua Johnson, a member of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated. Crossed over in spring of '86 at Zeta Chapter at Ohio State. When I think about the current climate, the word that initially came to me was cleansing. I thought back to last New Year's Eve service, and I believe the things that we've been through in 2020 was pretty much prophesied that it was going to happen. Of course, we didn't want to hear it, but I see that happening, and I see that those who are creating these issues, we're now being made aware, they're being shown, and where before they were hiding, now it's out in the open and they're being cleansed out. And so if they choose to go, I hate looking at that screen, in this crazy direction and what we've seen over the last 6 months, so be it. We're being made aware of it. And, as Tim mentioned earlier, God's going to clean all this mess up. And we have a great opportunity to show what we're really about and, let the healing begin.
I think I'm up. Is that correct, Latier?
Yes, sir.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. It's actually good to see Tim Easterling. Hadn't seen him in a while.
Yes, so sir. How you doing, brother?
Oh, I can't complain. Blessed and highly favored.
Yes, sir.
My name's Eric Martin, and I'm a member of Iota Phi Theta Fraternity Incorporated, pledged undergrad, spring '92. It was sort of a joint line with Alpha Mu, which is Central State. So, and I pledged Beta Delta at Wilmington College. So, it'll be 30 years real soon in terms of me being a member of Iota Phi Theta. I'm also, and I'm not, and I know this wasn't part of what our introduction was supposed to be, but I think it fits in terms of talking about climate and where we are. I'm also the principal at Winton Woods High School in Cincinnati, Ohio, in the Forest Park area. And 2020 revealed a whole lot of things. Mm-hmm. It revealed a whole lot of things, and it revealed things that were happening in society, in our world. And I'm pretty sure some of you guys may even be able to reflect on some personal things that are revealed in yourself. For me, it was a huge year medically for me. You know, I battled cancer this year. I battled COVID, pneumonia this year. It was pretty interesting, and it all happened like real quick like that, in terms of me being aware that I had cancer. So it made me be extremely reflective. You know, in the position that I hold, I take it very seriously in terms of creating opportunities for the young people I serve. And when I think about it, I think about my responsibility and every adult's responsibility that impact young people. What are we truly doing to prepare them for that next chapter? So this year has been a roller coaster, and it's revealed a lot of things. But in terms of what my responsibility is, didn't do anything but strengthen it. It made it even more clear in terms of what my purpose is, in terms of who I serve. Thank you.
Judith, if you can hear me.
Yes, now I can, yeah.
After Judith, I'm going to ask Tammy and then Pastor Vickers, if we can go.
Good evening, everyone, and glad to see you all. Judith Warren, Delta Sigma Theta sorority, still affiliated with Queen City Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta after relocating to Atlanta a few months ago. I probably have the most seniority out of this group. I became Delta in 1968 at Fisk University. Electrifying 29 was our line name. And we pledged at Fisk University, so had the HBCU experience, and it was an experience because we had Tennessee State down the street that came to help us pledge. So it was quite an experience down there. And have been, you know, a member since that time. My mom was a Delta, Golden Life Delta in Hampton, Virginia, president of her chapter. So, you know, I'm glad that I've had that legacy and grooming my granddaughters to go down the same path. So the time has been very interesting. Unfortunately, I was able to vote down here when I moved to Atlanta. So the first thing I did was, or one of the early things I did was get my driver's license. So I would be legal, and then I could register to vote. So was able to, you know, cast my ballot for the Democratic slate, and glad about that. Yeah, so the climate is, while we see a lot of, you know, contention that has been loosed in the atmosphere, in the spiritual high places, this is all spiritual warfare that's going on right now. In my opinion, it's spiritual warfare that's going on. And God, we know God is still in control. We have the victory as long as we stay focused and connected to God and Jesus and keep our focus. And it has certainly, I think, the pandemic making us, many of us, more prayerful and thankful, and just really being able to stay focused and helping people through these times that don't have a relationship with God and with Jesus Christ. And through the work of Zion Global Missions, we've still been able to reach out to so many families, households in Cincinnati, Hamilton County, with support and funding that's come through. So if anything that's happened, it's that the wealth of the riches, the wealth of the government has been slow and it's been piecemeal, and they've been fighting it at every turn to help people who need help. You know, it has brought forth those dollars to help people keep their homes and keep their utility bills, their utility bills paid. And so I think it's an opportunity for us collectively, which we all have done, I think, through the Divine Nine, of helping kids in school to be able to get the supplies that they need, get the connectivity, resources, connecting them with resources. And I think that's, kind of a strength of the Divine Nine, is that we have the capacity to really to leverage a lot. We can leverage a lot of resources because we have our members in high places. And the highest place right now is our sister Kamala Harris. So we have the ability to leverage and to take that leverage with the power and the authority that we have through Jesus Christ.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. This is Tammy Richardson. I miss so many of you in Cincinnati. I'm calling from Seattle, Washington. Thank you so much for the invitation. I am a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. And so I have to add that. I'm a life member, have been since spring '89, so over 30 years as well. Very active, have served in undergrad as president of that chapter at Grambling State University. So I also have the HBCU experience, as well as president of my grad chapter in Greater Cincinnati, actually, before moving to Seattle, Washington. I wanted to share, one of the things that come to mind is Jonathan McReynolds' song has been in my heart for a lot of cycles. It says, the devil learns from your mistakes, even if you don't. We are in another cycle. We can think about the 50s, 60s. I mean, if you play Martin Luther King's speech right now, it is applicable. You would think he's talking about what's happening outside today. So I think we're in a cycle. And one of the beauties of the D9, as you mentioned, we are competing, just like I did Incorporated, which probably stirred a little, little rivalry there. But inwardly, absolutely, we have. And what we've done for our communities continuously, specifically the Black community, D9 has showed up with leadership. It has showed up with services. It has been that community service element that our community has learned to trust. And actually, they depend on us, and they should continue to depend on us because we're there when no one else is there serving. So our sister, as you mentioned, Kamala in the VP position as well, but the support that we're getting from the D9 is just unprecedented. That could not happen with just one leg of the sorority. The other thing that I think the D9 has always had, as you said, Brother Welch, Christianity at its roots. Most nonprofit organizations fear to pray or to do Christian things within their plenary sessions, etc. I grew up with that. We pray, we have an element of God within our organization. I see serving in this organization as just a vessel of God using me through this particular vessel. But there's many other ones that serve and, give honor to the Almighty. The last thing I would say is that being part of the D9, but also part of the Black church, which two elements are critical in our communities, and that we have trust of our members is very vital at this particular time. But it is forcing us to go outside the four walls because I think we become very comfortable with church being inside a beautiful temple. This forces us to actually fall back on that muscle that we know to be true, which is get out on those streets and serve. Thanks.
Good afternoon, everybody. Very honored to be on the line today. My name is Jim Vickers. I am a member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. I pledged undergraduate, University of Cincinnati, Alpha Alpha Chapter 523, 1981. I pledged immediately after Pastor Pipers and a little bit before Brother Derick Welch. Excited to be here. And I bring you greetings, interestingly enough, also from south of the Twin Cities, St. Paul and Minneapolis. I live in Cincinnati. I spend a lot of time in a lot of different places, but I spend quite a bit of time here. And as many of you know, this has been the almost the boiling point in 2020. I've spent a lot of time around the George Floyd Memorial. I spent a lot of time with a lot of the leaders here talking about, not only talking about, but doing a number of different things in relation to that. How would I describe the climate today? I would describe it as, number one, obviously divided, and definitely divided. And I'll just piggyback off what Sister Judith said. Definitely spiritual warfare. The Bible says that a house divided against itself cannot stand. Number two is I'm thinking about the scripture in 2 Timothy, the 3rd chapter, the first verse, and it simply says, "This know also, that in the last days perilous times shall come." And we're definitely living in some perilous times. The last thing I would probably draw your attention to, and I think Sister Tammy hit it very, very well. I think this is God giving the church, and I'm not necessarily talking about the brick and mortar, but the ecclesia, an opportunity to really be the church. Without this whole 2020 experience, I probably would not be involved in a number of the conversations that I'm involved in on a local and a national level. And those conversations have been a blessing to me and blessing to some others. Josh and I, for instance, and Timothy and I have been involved in some conversations, and we probably would not be involved in these conversations had it not been for COVID-19, et cetera. But I would say the church, the plain glass as opposed to the stained glass, is going to really, really need to maybe step up, and we might need to pivot some also. And I really like this picture that I'm seeing here today, the Divine Nine in the church, and the role that we might be able to play in the church. So that's my input.
I appreciate all of you guys and sharing. I shared with Pastor early on that this year is the first year of a new decade. And I think Tammy was saying it as we kind of transition, there's a shifting that happens, if you look back 100 years in the 20s, the roaring 20s, as they called it, there was a period of time that took place that led toward a war as we moved toward World War I. But in the roaring 20s, people were having a great time. They were enjoying themselves, but it was really on the back side or the heels of a pandemic that it took place in 1918 that carried over to 1919. And sitting here right now, we're dealing with this disease in our country, all while we're dealing with other ills in the country. And I believe that God is finishing a work as he transitions us to a next. So out of first in Philippians 1 and 6, it talks about he who has begun a good work, right, is going to perform it until the day of Jesus Christ. He's going to complete the work that he started. His process and his way of doing things might not be our way of doing things. His ability to allow and to cause just lets us know who's in control and that he is totally sovereign. So I appreciate you guys being here tonight and sharing. I wanted to ask a question, and then we're going to kind of discuss a little bit. I put in the email that about racism. And we talked about a little bit about this as some of you guys were sharing, because of the differences in people. We're not saying white, black. We're talking about an ill of racism. And I know that Josh and Pastor Vickers, and I believe Tim, are talking to some folks of our brothers from a different culture, a white culture primarily. But it's interesting, the dialogue that's happening. As we said, racism is not a skin issue, it's a sin. It's a sin issue. And so I know that Eric Martin is a principal in a predominantly Black school, but it's not really all white. It's not all Black, right? I know you have teachers of a different culture. I know that you have students of all kinds of cultures. And I'm just wondering, how have you, I know the pandemic has kind of hit us in a different way for you to have attendance at the school directly, but how have you been able to navigate and deal with this issue, especially on the heels of everything that happened in 2020? If you don't mind sharing with us.
Well, as I shared a little bit, actually, I've only been at work 1 week this school year. because I found out I had cancer like in September, and I went through that whole piece. And my first week back at work was the week before we went out on holiday break. So, but to answer your question, I have an unbelievable team, and we usually set goals for ourselves each year. And I'm talking about my assistant principals. And one of the things that we've been challenged with is this whole idea around equity in everything that we do, and creating leaders that will be able to exhibit that through any avenue that they engage with. So a real strong emphasis for us is this whole idea around equity, and a lot of the things that we deal with and that we're challenged with, especially in the school setting, the foundation of our struggles usually comes from access, and it's an equity issue. So when you have components of adults where most of your teachers don't look like the kids they serve, you're talking about an even compounded situation, and it's real similar to some of the work that Tim used to do when we were at Princeton, in terms of some of the ills and some of the things he would bring attention to, but we didn't always have the platform in terms to make change, in terms of the administrator or the head administrator being that person to listen and being willing to get in those difficult struggles and conversations. So it first starts with that understanding that we have a responsibility to create equity for everyone and make sure that our adults understand what that truly means in every avenue that impacts the school. So in order for us to do it the correct way, that's the big cog that we kind of touched on to, Latier. And once you start talking about equity, it goes down a whole lot of different paths and in many different ways.
Thank you. Appreciate that. I want to flip over.
I just wanted to piggyback on.
It's funny that you start speaking, because that's who I was coming to, you.
Okay, then you know what, I'm gonna work with you. Okay. But I just wanted to, the whole equity piece is really powerful. If you step back and you look at it from a perspective of this has peeled back that onion to show how even in things like technology and access to technology and things like that, that we don't, as a community, have the same level of access and the same level of understanding and an ability to do the things that everybody else is able to do, because potentially of where we live and our ability to pay for things. And so it has highlighted a lot of that for our young people, not only for our young people, but for our community in general. And so it impacts us as far as schooling, jobs, because everybody's going remote. If you don't have internet at your house, how can you work remotely? So those types of things. And as we talk about how the Divine Nine can come together and do some of those to help in the community space, we need to broaden that to make sure that we understand not just focus in on the obvious, but on some of the things that are not so obvious, that are definitely leaving us behind because we don't have access to those things.
And if I could, where'd you go, Latia? Oh, there you are. You're at the bottom of my screen. If I could just tack on what you said and what my soror has just said about equity. The issue of disparities then, led to discussions of equity, at least in healthcare, because as we see with this pandemic, it's all about, it has exposed the disparities in access, the disparities in the kind of medical providers we have or don't have that look like us. And so that has lifted up equity in healthcare, and that's been a whole nother field where healthcare providers, and especially in the Caucasian race, and even foreign-born or foreign-trained physicians have had to acknowledge their bias when they come to this country and see in unequal or inequities or promote it because of their beliefs and attitudes of people of color and especially African Americans. So, you know, this whole pandemic has even exposed, you know, those disparities and brought to question the healthcare that we don't have equal access to and equity in healthcare. And so if everybody hasn't looked at or started reading Caste, the book Caste, the cause of our discontent, the origins of our discontent. Yeah, there you go. It's kind of it's pretty pretty deep in terms of the content, but it really exposes from the whole beginning of the caste system, because that's what we're living under, a caste system in this country that's based on, you know, color. So yeah, just wanted to, you know, build on that whole equity piece is underlaying a lot of what we see going on.
If I could add to that, I work in the financial industry, so I work for a bank, and so that's usually the first line of line of thought or line of thinking people think of when they think of inequities, and especially the disparities between the majority and the underrepresented, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it starts with the most basic things that we take for granted, and that is literacy, whether it's financial literacy or just literacy, the ability to read and comprehend and communicate, I think is a very big starting point, because if you are financially inequitable or lacking, it kind of minimizes you to navigate any other arena, healthcare or the job market or any of those things. Because now if you have poor credit, you can be discounted for jobs. You will not be considered if you don't have the means to pay. That's why a lot of us don't go to the doctor, because we don't have the means or the access, not only to pay for it. If we can get there, we still can't be covered. So I think a lot of it starts, you know, with the financial literacy and just awareness and education that opens so many other doors.
So Josh, I know you're in that industry from a different perspective. Do you mind chiming in on what Jenise was just sharing from what you see? I mean, I know you meet with clients on a daily basis, but are they mostly in the majority or underrepresented?
Well, Jenise is actually absolutely correct. It definitely goes back to education, and it goes back to we weren't taught anything about bottom line money when we were growing up. Mm-hmm. And our parents didn't know much about it either. And so they couldn't teach us. And to this day, you can find very few institutions that teach you about it. And I recall the time I wanted to volunteer and go to a neighborhood school of mine a number of years ago and start teaching and provide. I had a sponsor providing all of the resources, all of the books, whatever we needed to start teaching. And when I presented it to the school, unfortunately, the principal thought it was a great idea. The teacher thought it was a great idea. But because there were other things going on, they had that more as a priority. And so they didn't think it would be a good idea. I was coming in, not charging a dime, wanting to help. And so when those opportunities come up, as Judy will tell you, I'm there to help educate. Once we understand how money works, once we understand how important our credit is and how it affects us, then we can make wiser decisions and we can have more power, we can have more control. But if we don't understand it, we'll always be a slave to it. And we won't have that power, we won't have that control. And that's why we are in our race decades behind where we should be. And as you mentioned earlier, Latier, if I had to guess, probably 95%, if not more, of my clients are white. And it's interesting when we have our discussions and what they share with me about how they teach their children and how they want their children to come and work with me. And I don't get that on our end. And they're leaving money, they're leaving resources when they pass away, while we're so busy setting up, GoFundMe accounts to bury our loved ones. They're leaving resources so that their family, one, don't have to worry about it, and two, to give them a head start in life. And I don't know how many times I've seen that occur, where all of a sudden a 21, 22-year-old now has a couple $100,000 sitting in their account. They've got a head start in life compared to the rest of us. Yep. And that happens on a regular basis. So I believe we really need to make a huge impact on the educational portion of that and start teaching them while we can, no matter if it's age 1 to 100, we just got to start getting folks to understand. Once they understand, I think we can equalize a whole lot of things. But unfortunately, money is a huge issue, and we can't run away from it.
Man. My sister is in here. You guys may not know Sharon Civils, who just crossed over into Zeta Phi Beta. And she is joining us from Lansing, Michigan. But I wanted to ask her from a perspective of NAACP, because I know you are actively involved in Lansing, and you're seeing quite a bit. You guys just went through an election period up there, I know. But from Lansing, and especially with everything else that's going on, not only the climate, but the interactions that you guys are having with individuals as we look at this racism scenario, what are you guys kind of pushed on, or what are you focused on?
Well, it's a little bit of everything, because it's just a hotbed going on. As you know, we're the state capital of Michigan here in Lansing. And there's a lot of things going on with the individuals because of this pandemic we're in called COVID. A lot of jobs are lost, okay? So we get calls all the time, because even though it's winter here and you can't pay your bills, they're coming to put people out of their homes. And we're the first people that they're reaching out to. You talk about money, first of all, they're really, those that we have contact with are living paycheck to paycheck. I don't know how you can teach somebody to save when every dime you got is got to go toward help you stay afloat and live. So we're trying to help them, to see about what kind of funding can they get, what kind of shelter can we provide. Then the children, you talk about the children, which comes the parents. Now you're trying to see, do they have everything in order to teach their kids with laptops, iPads, tablets, whatever. And now you sort of got to teach the parents, because they're not teachers. And not only that, you've got to sit with your child while they're in school. I don't know if they didn't know that. And that really shocked them, because, that's 6 hours, and if your child is going to school, 5 days a week, 6 hours a day, 30 hours of your time, and you're trying to look for a job. And even if you find one, who's going to take care of your kid? You have no money for that. So it's a conglomerate of problems going on here. I can't hardly express it all in one shot of talking to you guys. But this is something that we're trying to put our our boots on the ground to help people. We're also, what we got going on is the Poor People Campaign. It's Reverend Barber. He's reaching out. We'll do this on January 11th. He's coming here because there's a lot of people with housing problems to try to stop this. You know, people being put out of their homes, you know, they're evicted. I mean, and you see this on TV and people watch TV like, wow, is that happening out there? It's happening right here. And it's probably happening in your communities. I don't know how much you have boots on the ground to see this, but it is an issue, you know. And then you talk about food and everything stems back with money. I mean, it's like a domino effect, you know. And yeah, racism, I don't know, it's embedded. We're the first one hit with it because first of all, it never went away. You know, we're seeing it at its finest right now on CNN. You know, these people out here thinking that they supposed to get something that, you know, it is not supposed to be that way. But they're fighting for it. But here we are over here suffering, but it's all these tactics to take away the light from where it need to be shining. This is idiotic over here. There's no reason for this. But yet they're doing that when we got people here that need the help. I'm gonna have to get off my soapbox. I'm the secretary for Lansing NAACP. They just put me back in office. I'm doing my second term. I got a lot of irons in the fire going on. I deal with the mayor of Lansing. I deal with the Congresswoman Elizabeth Slotkin. I deal with our representative Sarah Anthony. I can go on, and I've got the phone right here in my home. So it rings off the hook, and I hear these people, and the cries kill me. And I'm glad that I'm on this line with you guys, because where there's two or three, there he is in the midst. And I need your strength as a divine nine, as just people that got a passion and a thirst that you're going off for Jesus Christ, because this is the only way we're going to make it through this. With that, I'm gonna get off my soapbox because I could really go on.
That's all right. That's all right. I really appreciate that, your input, just from that perspective. Knowing that we, again, come from different backgrounds. We come from all different parts of the country as well. I mean, if we go around, people were born all over the place, right? But the experiences that you've had, you know, not only just with fraternity and sorority, and I mean, I know there's brotherhood, there's sisterhood, and there's unity there. And there's really, like Derick said, there's really more unity here, no matter where we come from, AKA, Delta, Zeta, you know, Kappa, Q, doesn't matter what your fraternity or sorority, literally, especially when you get past undergrad or being a young whippersnapper and have no clue what you're really up to or what you're doing, you start understanding purpose and mission, and that you really are on the same, we're in the same boat. We're all in the same boat. And of course, being the Divine Nine and, you know, having that history. And I think what I really want to get to is what do you think at this point, you know, just as some last comments, can push us closer together from a unity perspective? What can we do to move closer together in accomplishing things together?
Can you clarify that question too, please? Are you talking about the Divine Nine specifically?
Yes. And please put it in perspective of as believers, and that's kind of the key here. I mean, we're believers. Yeah. We are part of the Divine Nine, but we're believers. And I mean, there's maybe everybody in your organization may not be believers, but as believers, as we are here as a unit, just on this call. There are some power here and things that we could do, less alone our organizations at large. So I want, if that's clear, Jim.
Yes, I would just start by saying this is a great first step. Again, I'm involved in about 7 different, literally just conversations. And I think Josh can, and probably Timothy can speak to this, that I never understood the power, and I'm a pretty old guy, but I never understood the magnitude of a simple conversation. And when you start talking about men and women of God, when you take time to actually start to communicate, I mean, not surface conversation. I'm talking about you're really talking, you're peeling back, you're being transparent, you got some humility, strength under control. It's amazing what God can do. And God seems to work best and the most is accomplished, not in good times, not in the summer and spring, but in very difficult times and in inclement weather. God seems to have the greatest impact when we let him. So I just think that this is a tremendous time, and particularly for the church, because if there's any group of people that are going to have an impact, because there is no other foundation that's strong enough to withstand what we are up against. The word is clear. No other foundation can no man lay than that which is laid, which is Christ Jesus. So regardless of what your pedigree, your fraternity, or sorority, because at the end of the day, that's all going to fade away. But the word of God is going to stand. And when we know how to touch and agree, I think phenomenal things could happen. Last real quick comment I want to make too, back to the racism piece. What I see and what I would like us at some point to have a conversation about, and it's what everybody's talking about, it's the money thing out here. Again, I don't think that we talk about money enough, particularly people of God in the church. We've been blessed. We've got great incomes and all of that kind of stuff. We're Divine Nine, college educated and all that. But at the end of the day, we are not managing enough payrolls. In our communities, we need to understand the exponential impact of a simple payroll, totally different than a paid check. And if we're going to be different and we're going to really leverage our collective talents, we've got to figure out as Divine Nine, how do we produce more paid roles?
I would want to kind of piggyback off of that, but I want to go back to when we initially started the call, and we said racism is not a skin issue, it's a sin issue. And I'm gonna say it slightly differently, that it's a heart issue. And regardless, we all have a different affiliations, we all, like we said, different backgrounds, but I've seen the most change and the most impact through relationship, period. That's where you get to the generosity. It's not going to be policy that makes the change. It's not going to be rules and regulations. And yes, we're talking about education and curriculum. It is important, but you can't legislate hate away. It is a matter of the heart. It starts with relationship, and it starts with influence where you are. And that's how the dollars flow. That's how people make change and affect change. It is a heart issue, and you have to meet people where they are.
I just want to say one thing real quick. So what I have found in 2020 with, the whole COVID piece, what I've been most amazed at being a Christian and thinking about, us as, in different sororities and fraternities is, did you watch us really come together when we had to vote? Did you see us hold hands? Did you see us pray? All of our beliefs came to fruition that we know is the right thing. And I believe that that's going to carry us through 2021. And it's not just about, Kamala being, our vice president, being African-American, but it's about values and belief. And she brings that, and we already have it. So I just believe in my own heart that, as we continue forward, we're going to carry those beliefs, our energies, the fact that we know that we serve a true God. We know that he will heal the land. And we know at the end of the day, we have to serve him. And that's carrying forward, not just again in D9, but if you think about it, it's across the world. So I let that resonate in me all the time because I think about all that I've seen. And again, I loved it when I saw us all holding hands and hugging each other. And we didn't care what color you had on. We didn't care what organization you belonged to. We were people that truly had a belief, and guess who? Our God.
We got a few minutes left. I'm going to ask that Tim and then lastly, Tammy, if you guys could share your thoughts, and then we'll wrap up here. Thank you, guys.
Yes, Elder Latir. What I would say is that when it comes to resources in our community, we've been lacking on multiple levels. But I'll choose to stay on my platform, which is mental health and providing clinical counseling in the schools or in the communities. During this pandemic, I've seen resources poured into different school districts differently. I'll stay with my main funding source is Cincinnati Public, inner city school. When this happened, we shut down the schools and I had to work remote from March until right now. Well, August, the first thing that the school decides to do is eliminate some of the mental health resources at a time when the families needed it even more. Because as one of the other people were talking about, some of the resources from technology and some of the academic supports were removed. So the parents didn't have that. So parents they were working, they were trying to rear the home, and then they had to become educators. So they were taking on stress. I remember last year when I was calling students at home, I would spend 30 minutes, 40 minutes talking to parents just about the stressors that was going on in the home. And maybe the last 15 or 20 minutes talking to kids on just how to manage, completing their assignments the best of their abilities, making sure that they could just finish their assignments. I even had to get to the point towards the last part of the year, which said, you know what, let me just take the stress away from you. Just complete the work. Because it basically came down to pass and fail. They were no longer going to get A's, B's, and C's and D's. They were going to just be considered, if they turned in a portion of their work, they were going to pass. That's what came down from the state. So once I presented that to them, and I don't know what else was being presented to them from other professionals, but I just really wanted to be real transparent that I just need you to complete your work, because when we do go back into the building, I don't need you to be in the same grade that you were when we left here. You deserve the right to be promoted because of the events that occurred was no fault of your own. So when I go and I look at my other district, which is Sycamore, they find a way to stay in school. Even in the midst of the pandemic, they find a way to stay in school. But one of the number one things that they did was continue to provide the mental health support because they understood the stressors. So again, we're talking about the dynamics of the different diverse communities and resources being implemented in those. So we always somehow, some kind of way, are facing some type of disparity, whether it's economic, whether it's on a mental and emotional level, whether it's housing, whatever it may be, we're always facing some type of adverse situation and always fighting uphill. And, until we really just say, you know what, everybody's equal. And Brother Martin said, it's been a long time since we have spoke. Brother Martin was the principal at Princeton when I was there working and doing the mental health, doing the social skill groups and anger management. And 15 years ago, what I was trying to do was trying to empower individuals and educate them to get them to be more self-aware of the power and control they had of their future. And these are things that was not being talked about. Like, because Brother Joshua said before, he tried to bring in the financial resources into the schools to help educate and help make young people aware of their responsibilities to their economical uplift. Those things are always welcome. So, 15 years ago into present day, I know that myself as a man of God has had to try to be creative with bringing those things into the community, because that's what I meant by the world is being destroyed by the hands of man and being rebuilt by the hands of God, because God is empowering people of our character to go into these environments and build it back up. So I believe that if we can just continue to be humble as individuals, collectively, we'll find ways to come together and be creative in order to empower all those around us. That's all I have to say.
Bless you guys.
Latier,
Yes.
I want to
Hey.
I want to respond to your question. As we listen to everyone speak today, and we all have our passions, as you can tell, and we all have areas of interest that we specialize in and we're, extremely effective in. And so going back to your question, I would propose that we create a common goal, what we would like to accomplish, what we would like to see accomplished. And each one of us in our different fields of study or areas of expertise or whatever our passions are, what areas we want to help, by us coming together, we be able to accomplish or, at least focus on many things. I don't think there's one area that's more important than the other. Everything we've all talked about today is extremely important, and they need to be addressed in one way or fashion or form. And maybe if we can to determine what the big picture goal is, and then we can all come together, and I can literally see our fingers coming in and meeting that, with and us leading in those areas.
Bless you. Yes, I agree. And that's kind of where, my girl Tammy had to drop off, but and I'm sure Sister Tina would tell me the same thing, kind of what's next? What do we do? Blah, 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 right? And I know how that goes, right? So I don't want to take the time here, but look forward to sharing with you guys on email, and that we will follow up. And thank you for saying that, Josh, because that's important. I'm really thinking about, and no need for us to just come together. It's nice. I mean, I love seeing you guys and love chit-chatting and all that stuff. But in reality, affecting change and having impact matters more than anything else. And we know that, right? We have kids, we have parents, we have our neighbors, we have so many people that we're connected to that really look to us. And I think we can have a truly affect change wherever we are, and in our organizations and in our different walks of life. So again, I thank each and every one of you for joining. I really appreciate your time. I know we tried to stay to an hour. I just want to bless you real quick. And the words are from Numbers 6, 24 through 26. May the Lord bless you. May the Lord keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord turn his face towards you and give you peace. Go in peace. We'll talk.
Thank you.
Amen.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. See you guys.
See you later.
All right.
Bye-bye.